Welcome to News, Views and Foreign Language Clues. Guess what? I've changed my language learning again. So a couple of times a year I get 2 months ahead with videos so I can have some time off from creating them, and it gives me more time for creative writing. This summer I found that my Italian was being really badly affected by Spanish when I was writing. I was having difficulty separating some things out, so I took a drastic decision. I decided to stop actively studying Spanish. This doesn't mean I'm going to stop reading in Spanish, but I am going to stop creating sentences in Spanish, except for in book reviews, in the hopes that this resolves the situation. If I were ever to go to Spain again, I could easily just spend a couple of weeks refreshing everything to a level where I could string a sentence together myself. I have no plans to go to Spain anytime soon. I started doing the daily refresh on Duolingo for Italian every day to try to get my brain aligned with it properly again, which does seem to be working. It is pushing Spanish back, and the sentences I've been getting have been varied, giving me a wide variety of things to practice on. One thing I have noticed, though, is that these days Duolingo seems to be less likely to accept alternatives to the answer that's set into the system, or that the AI thinks is right. This is likely because there is no forum now where these things can be highlighted. At least back then, if you thought something should be added, you could look at the attached comments and see if anyone else was thinking the same. Now there's no such facility. The only option is to report it, and honestly, who wants to do that all the time? Anyway, I am continuing with Portuguese because that doesn't seem to be having an effect. I think this is probably because Portuguese sounds very different to Italian, whereas Spanish sounds much closer. Also, some of the Portuguese grammar is closer to Italian, so I won't forget to put the article in Italian like I was starting to do, because I didn't need it in Spanish. Okay, another Italian thing. Sono tutto orecchi. This phrase, sono tutto orecchi, will be coming up in a future story, but I wanted to talk about it here, for a couple of reasons. First, it was a sentence given to me by Duolingo, and I thought, do Italians say that? Or is this just a translation of the English phrase, I'm all ears? Which, for non-English native speakers, means that you're going to be listening attentively. I went on to Reverso Context, and it seems that it is, although possibly not that common, but I discovered something else. I instinctively put orecchi, which turned out to be correct, but I don't know why. If the plural of ear is orecchie, which is feminine, and the single is orecchio, so why did I put orecchi? I guess I must have seen it somewhere before, because orecchi is used in a medical context and for figurative uses of ears, which I guess this expression is, although both orecchi and orecchie were listed in the expression on Reverso Context. But I also discovered that orecchia, single female, also exists and is used in some sayings, like un'orecchia can be a dog ear that you make on the page of a book, which on Reverso Context is sometimes combined with d'asino. So l'orecchia d'asino, which means they're saying donkey ear a book. That, of course, made me wonder if orecchia was used for animal ears. Well, according to my searches, it's definitely not used for dogs and cats, so I guess not. Anyway, I thought that was interesting. I still don't know why I put orecchi, though, unless perhaps my brain was thinking orecchie singular, take the E off for plural? Who knows? I certainly don't. Words and phrases. So this month we're going to try something different with the words and phrases. I'm going to talk about verbs in Spanish, French and Italian that don't exist in English. These might be things that are totally alien to English, or things that we say using a lot more words than a single verb. Let's start with Spanish. So this first one may just be Argentinian, I'm not sure. It's arremangarse, or it can be, it seems, simply remangarse. Anyway, here it is used in a phrase. Arremangándose hasta los codos. Doing something up to the elbows. Well, that could be a lot of things, I guess, but this verb has a part of clothing in it, la manga, which is a sleeve. So this verb is to roll up your sleeves. And what do you know? You have leg sleeves too, because I also found this phrase, se arremangó el pantalón hasta la rodilla. So next time you're talking about trousers, be sure not to say trouser leg, or pant leg if you must. Say trouser or pant sleeve, and see what kind of reaction you get. Here's another one, madrugar. You might have heard of la madrugada, which is one way of saying dawn. Madrugar is the verb to use if you're getting up at dawn, or really early. So you're dawning, in effect. Although we don't say that, but something can dawn on you. No, getting up with the lark is something we might say, a much longer phrase. Now French. In other languages, other than English, you often have a personal you for friends and family and a formal you for work colleagues, older generations and that kind of thing. In French, they have two simple verbs for this. Tutoyer, for referring to someone as a friend, and vouvoyer, for referring to someone formally. These are reflexive and can be used with faire, for example. Je me fais tutoyer, I'm on first name terms, could be one translation, although it's more literally, I can address them as two. If you put vouvoyer in reverse context, you can get some really weird phrases in English, like it's best to mister someone you don't know well, for il vaut mieux vouvoyer quelqu'un. I think the English might be better expressed as it's better to address someone in a formal manner, or to use their title, or be polite, because you'd get some really strange looks if you said you were mistering someone. And yes, Spanish, Italian and Portuguese all have familiar and formal forms, but they don't have exact equivalents of these verbs as single verbs. Italian. This first one I heard in a podcast and had to guess its spelling. I didn't get that it started with an S, but I found it anyway. It's cervellarsi. So the fact that it's reflexive probably means that it's something you do to yourself, and I think it's quite easy to see cervello within the word, so it's something to do with the brain. This is an Italian equivalent of the English to rack one's brain. For those for whom English is not their first language, that means thinking really hard to try to work something out. So you might see something like si cervella cercando una soluzione. He or she racks their brain trying to find a solution. And our second Italian verb, which always makes me pause when I'm trying to say it, is scodinzolare. I don't think there's anything in this word that would give you a clue other than the context, and even then you might struggle. This is something to do with dogs, but dogs do a lot of things. Running, jumping, zoomies. Do other countries say zoomies? Zooming around like a mad thing? Back to the verb. It's actually to wag one's tail. So you might see il cane scodinzolava. Il cane scodinzolava. The dog was wagging its tail. Interestingly, I just saw this verb in a book where someone was joking about not being able to wag their tail because they didn't have one.